This is Support is Sexy, episode 21, with celebrity stylist and image maker Rachel Johnson. Welcome to the Support is Sexy podcast. I'm your host, Elayne Fluker, entrepreneur, author, producer, and founder of Chic Rebellion Media. 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, I talk to women entrepreneurs who share their journeys and the true stories of their wins and their lessons, and give you insight and inspiration to take your business and your life to the next level. Here we go. Hi, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of Support is Sexy. I am so happy to have you here. It just would not be the same without you. So today we welcome my friend, Miss Rachel Johnson. Rachel is a stylist and an image maker, and she's been featured in the New York Times, ESPN, and countless other publications because of the amazing work that she does with her clients. And her long list of clients include LeBron James, Cruz, Amar'e Stoudemire, Cam Newton, J.R. Smith. She's worked with some of the top athletes in the business, and she's also worked with people like Pharrell and others in the music business as well. What Rachel has become known for the past few years, though, is really, quote unquote, making over the NBA. She is the reason, in large part, that you see a lot of fashion magazines noticing the style of certain athletes now. They're appearing on covers of fashion magazines. Cruz, for example, is the face of Givenchy menswear line. And all of that is in large part to Rachel and her work with these gentlemen. So now, after 16 years in the business, Rachel is here to share with us her insight about styling, what people misunderstand about the business, also what it takes to be successful as a stylist, why styling is really about the work and making the work speak for itself. She also gives us 3 tips for getting into the business. So for anyone interested, you definitely want to listen for that. She talks about why relationships are crucial and the importance of the trust factor. And then something I'm very happy to hear her say, she is really, for herself, learning to be more in the moment and the importance of celebrating herself. So that is a stage that she's in right now. And she talks a little bit about that transition and how she's transitioning even within the styling business herself and some new things that she's up to. So I know you're going to love this. Tons of great nuggets in here. So without further ado, Rachel Johnson. So Rachel, thank you so much for joining us on Support is Sexy.
Thank you for having me. I'm so proud of you and ecstatic about this new chapter for you.
Thank you. Yay.
Yeah, I'm really proud.
Thank you. So I have to ask you, when did you first fall in love with entrepreneurship?
I'm going to have to say I fell in love with entrepreneurship in college.
Mm-hmm.
And didn't necessarily realize that I was an entrepreneur, but I had 2 girlfriends who I partnered with, and every Wednesday and Friday we took recycled vintage wares onto campus at college and sold clothes and basically styled. I was styling even back then, and that was when it all started.
And how did that start? Did you were just talking about vintage shopping and then you started styling people? Or how does that work?
I think that, we made certain bold statements with our own personal style,
right,
on set, and on campus, and it turned into, well, can you help me? Well, I have an event. Well, I'm doing this. Well, I'm doing that. And the other thing is, we would buy so much stuff and have so much excess.
Right. So you might as well sell it.
Ended up selling things because we bought things because we liked it, not necessarily because it fit or because we were actually planning on wearing it. And so it kind of turned into a thing.
Nice. Now, You grew up in Englewood, New Jersey, right?
Yes.
What was Rachel like as a little girl? What was young Rachel like?
Young Rachel was definitely a tomboy, 100% into sports. And so that definitely translated into my career later. But I played football, basketball, kickball, always with the boys, but I can jump double dutch too. But huge tomboy, but equally creative at the same time. So, I mean, my mom still has some of the construction paper creations that I made in second and third grade. And even those pieces, when I look at them, they're intricate and full of texture. And, I didn't realize it, but my creative brain was already in the flow when I was second and third grade.
Did your personal style play into your childhood at all? I mean, that shows that your creativity, but were you always, excited about clothes or anything like that? Did it have a presence in your life?
It really did in high school. It started when I met, other girls who were really into fashion.
Mm-hmm.
I had two really close friends in high school. Both of them were like polo fanatics, polo down,
Right.
Ralph Lauren all day. And that's what really got me into fashion. I'm talking like we didn't go to high school together. Erica, you remember
Right.
Erica?
Yes.
Yeah. And my girlfriend Adrian. So between the two of them, they really sparked my love of and interest in fashion. And that's when I really started expressing myself, utilizing clothing to do it.
Mm-hmm. Now, who were your greatest influences growing up overall?
Well, definitely my mom.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Your stylish mom.
yeah, I mean, she's taught me to dig through flea markets. She taught me the beauty of, vintage patterns, and she she and her girlfriends in high school made all their own clothes. So over the weekend, they would like create their looks for the week.
Mm-hmm.
And so I definitely got it naturally because as I was growing up, she and I always explored together. I got dragged to every thrift store, every flea, every Indian market, every museum. There was always um, an opportunity to learn and create when I was with her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, how did all of this exposure to being creative and going shopping with your mom and Erica and Adrian and everything translate into the business that you have now, being a master stylist? I don't know if that's what you call yourself. That's what I'm going to call you.
Okay.
But how did it translate, do you feel, in your natural talents or natural creativity translate into your business?
There was definitely an arc, and everything connects to where I am now. Just from listening to myself tell my own story right now. I'm like, hey, yeah, that all.
It's so funny. That's what happens with people. They're like, oh, okay, yeah, now I remember when I was 6 that this happened, and that's why I'm.
Exactly. It's like, oh, that's why I love red and blue together.
Right.
Yeah, it was every moment led up to this one, when it was I was 19 and in the middle of getting my degree to teach high school English when I found out that I could get paid to do what I love.
Mm.
And up until then, we didn't have the exposure that children have now to all of the myriad of career paths that you can take. So
Right.
then it was like doctor, teacher, lawyer, which of these three things are you going to be?
Right.
And so I thought that I had to be a teacher. And halfway through college, I met a gentleman who told me that there were Black women getting paid to create images for celebrities. And I was like, wait a minute, what?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's a real thing?
Right.
So once I understood that styling and creative design was an actual career path, I was like, oh, that's what I'm going to do.
You decided right then, like that's when you
Right
were
then,
like,
as soon as I heard it, that was my new trajectory. And
mm.
I was already doing it. I was already styling FAMU and Florida State and didn't realize it and didn't understand, that my own personal style and then the fact that we were able to take wares out into the marketplace was already starting these trends and already helping to mold a community. And that's really, what styling is. So once I realized that I could extend that business into quote unquote real life and really make a career out of it, no turning back from there.
Right. Now,
Yeah.
what was the first step do you remember taking after finding that out? Like, or was it just kind of you was already on that path? Did you just continue what you were doing, knowing that this could turn into a business or a career?
Yeah, I continued on the path because really I wanted to quit school once I had this metamorphosis, but my mom was like, hell no.
Right, just in case. Yeah.
Yeah. No, you're going to finish college because you already started. But really, everything begins in the mind. And so just knowing in my mind and being able to picture myself moving forward into this career path was really where it began. Understanding that it was something that I could do and then just making a mental picture of it was the first step that I took, honestly.
Is that something that you do still today? Like have the vision for what you want to do and then take steps toward it?
You know what? I have a vision for something and then it takes a step towards me. So that's kind of how things have always worked for me. But it's like a mental and spiritual move first. And like once I open myself up to it, then whatever that thing is that I've decided that I want has the pathway to come towards me when I open it up in my mind first.
I love that. Love
Yeah.
it. Now, what do you think people misunderstand about the business of styling?
Well,
Clear my throat.
Let me clear my
break
throat.
it down.
What I tell people all the time is the client comes first. And what I see in especially the new generation of stylists is a lot of peacocking. There's a lot of me first. This is what I do. Here I am. And then like, these are the people, who I work with or who I've attached myself to. And my philosophy has always been client first. You put the work first, you put the client first, and the peacocking comes naturally. It's not anything that you have to force or say, hey, look at me. Styling to me is letting your work speak for itself. People think that you're sitting front row at fashion shows and you're flying first class and you're staying at these hotels and you're courtside at basketball games. And that's 10% of the actual business
Right.
of it. But that's the 10% that people see.
And the 10% most people probably go after or are drawn to.
Right. And they make that 90%. And then the work is, you never know exactly who people, like what people are actually doing. You just see what's being presented. And so, I'm all about the client first, the work first, and everything else comes after that.
Do you think that's been a large part of your success?
For sure. Yeah, without a doubt.
Because I would think the clients can sense that when they're not first, right?
Of course they can. Of course they can. And, when you're catering to celebrities, they're used to being the star.
Right.
They are the star. And so that has to be the mindset. To me, I'm just like a waitress serving food on a plate.
You are
Except,
not.
it's but it's a leather jacket or a finely tailored suit. But at the end of the day, like I'm serving someone. I'm in a service business, just like a waitress or somebody who washes cars or changes oil or whatever. So that's really my love for what I do. And then the fact that I realize that I am a link in a chain or a cog in a wheel, like a part of a team, is what I think contributes to my success. That kind of mentality.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, I noticed on your website, thomasfaison.com, that I'll have linked up so everybody can go there, that you are looking for interns. I don't know if you are still, but that was on there at one point.
No, it's still on there, and I'm always accepting new talent.
Good. People who want to really do the work, though.
Right, which is few and far between,
Right.
honestly.
So if you could give a young Rachel just starting out, say you're about to be an intern in the business, what's 3 pieces of advice that you would give her?
If young Rachel is going to be an intern in the business, be available.
Mm-hmm.
Availability is key. There's no real structure to the styling business. There are no hours of operation or limits or boundaries when it comes to the business of styling. So you have to be available and be open to whatever is being asked of you.
Mm-hmm.
That's number 1. Number 2, wear comfortable shoes.
Because you're going to be running around like a crazy person.
Because you will be running around like a crazy person. And, Louis Johnson, who worked for Sybil Pettix, and they were the first ones who ever gave me a job. The first job I ever worked on was with Louis, who was Sybil's assistant, and we were styling boys to men.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I've never seen so many clothes assembled in one place still to this day. And that was my first job.
Right.
And that was 16 years. I still haven't seen that many clothes assembled in one place. And I wore heels that day. And Louis, if you talk to him, anytime I see him, you know how you have your parent tells the same story about
over
you
and
over and over again.
Yeah.
Every time I see Louis, he'll be like, "Girl, remember your first day when you had on those heels?" Damn. They'd be like, "That second day though, you came with those flats, didn't you? That next day when you came in, you had those sneakers on. You knew what it was."
I love it.
He tells that story every time I see him to whoever it is that I'm with or whoever is listening in the room.
Right. So you got it right away after that. Like, yeah, so this isn't going to work.
Day 2, it only took one time for me to mess that up. Day 2, I had on those flats.
Did you take your shoes off at all during that day? I got to know when you had those heels on. Like, could you stand it? Right? Pain. You had to keep it going.
Of course I did. No, I couldn't take my shoes off. Those people didn't know me. It's like your first day as an assistant or intern. I think they actually paid me, and it was like, I had to wear those heels, girl. I didn't take them off because, by the way, if I took them off, that would be part of his story.
Right.
Right. No. He'd be like, "But remember, you had to take those things off. Those dogs were barking, weren't they?" That would have been part of the story, Elayne.
Right. I love it. That is too funny.
Yeah.
So flat shoes is another tip. Okay.
Okay. So wear comfortable shoes is a must. That's number 2 because you can't get any work done otherwise. And number 3. Absorb as much as you possibly can. Be a fly on the wall. That's my number 3.
Mm-hmm.
Take it all in. Be as observant as possible. And understand that the moments that you're getting and the lessons that you're getting are invaluable. I see people come to me and they're just kind of like deer in the headlights, kind of like looking around, like, what's going on? What's going on? And before you know it, like your opportunity is over.
Mm.
So
being present.
Be present. Don't be in awe. Be present. And really understand, like, if I'm telling you to call someone, you should be writing that down in a notebook and consider that your very first contact in the fashion industry. Mm-hmm. It's nothing that you absorb is a throwaway. So definitely be present.
Nice. Now, you've worked with some of the biggest names in entertainment and music and sports and different brands, but you do so much more than just styling. Now, you do some workshops or different things that you've been doing lately. It's really about transforming people and educating people. I saw that you were doing, like, speaking at an event or something like that. Is that a part of your business or what you're doing more of now as well?
It definitely is. I mean, my new goal is to talk about what I do instead of actually doing it.
Okay. Makes sense to me.
Get paid for that.
Good. Well, that's the thing. Once you build up an expertise too, you said you've been doing it for so long, 16 years now, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. And then realizing that I'm an expert in this category.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And who knew that? But yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot of what I do now. Workshops, speaking engagements, and just opportunities to educate. I mean, again, there are no wasted opportunities. So the fact that I have a degree to teach, technically, um, I'm using it now because I've always felt like an educator, but especially now, I feel like people can use me as a tool to learn. Yeah.
Now, people, there's been different articles and things about you saying that you sort of transformed the look of the NBA for sure with your
Mm-hmm.
stylist. So, what do
Mm-hmm.
you feel like was one of the first steps you took in helping people decide to have a different look? Because that couldn't have been easy when people are used to wearing, people being athletes,
Yeah.
not to stereotype them, but are used to wearing a certain kind of look, and then you're like, no, this tailored suit with the cuff at the ankle or whatever.
Yeah. Well, a lot of styling is trust. And the clients that I have had the fortune of working with all came from previous relationships. So if I had to add a fourth thing, a fourth bit of advice to the young Rachel, I would say that relationships are everything. And maintaining them is key in in any entrepreneurship role that anyone decides to take. Maintaining those relationships is key. I mean, the fact that you and I are speaking right now, you know what I
Right.
mean?
After
Like,
knowing each other
this
25
is, you're
years.
right, exactly. But um, styling is 100% about trust. And once a gentleman lets me into his life, usually they're open to my suggestions.
Right.
Once they've gotten to the point that they called me and want to partner with me to help amplify their style or use style as a vehicle to become marketable, then they're usually at that point ready to listen.
And
Yeah.
especially, I would think now, because as you said, your work speaks for you. They kind of have
Yeah.
a sense of not that you do the same thing over and over, but they have a sense of the kind of work that you do.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Excellent. Now, let's talk about the hashtag I did that. That was up a little while
I
ago.
need to post some more stuff too.
Yeah. So, one of the quotes that you said, I like pulling stuff that people said, even though people get nervous sometimes about it, but this is a good thing. You said, I've never taken the time out to really celebrate all that I've done over the past 16 years. And then you were doing the hashtag I did that. I think it was around your birthday. So, why is that? Why not?
Uh, just because all I do is work. And so, I've had so many victories throughout the 16 years that I made, like, woohoo, go me, and just kind of just move on to the next thing. And so um, I haven't really just stopped to take it all in and to celebrate with other people, and to just like publicly acknowledge that I've done a lot and I have a lot to be proud of. And so that was why I did that. That was the point of hashtag I did that.
I love it. Now, what made you realize it was important to celebrate self? Because I feel like a lot of us often don't do that in whatever industry we're in. We just have our head down doing the work, or we don't want to say, these are the things that I did. I'm celebrating this. There's almost
Right.
a level of guilt around it or whatever it is. What do you think
It's true.
made you realize, you know what, it's important that I celebrate myself?
I mean, it was the time in. It's like when I realized how long I've been in this business, it's unbelievable, first of all, still. Like, I can't believe I've been doing anything for 16 years besides like breathing and being Black. But um, I just thought that there was a reason to celebrate. Um, you know, I look at my parents and my grandparents who had the same job. Like my mom is about to retire. She's been on the same job for 31 years, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And I always thought about the fact that, or always put myself in this category of the fact that there's no longevity in what it is that I'm doing, but it's actually not true. And there actually is a lot of longevity in what it is that I've been doing, even if I'm not going to an office and seeing the same people every day. The same amount of effort, if not more, has been put in. And that's something to celebrate.
It sure is. I'm
Yeah.
happy you're celebrating you. I celebrate you too. I'm so proud
Thank
of
you.
you.
Thank you.
Now,
Yeah.
what does your go ahead, I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, there's beauty in humility. So I understand why I haven't taken the time out to celebrate and why, women may not take out the time to celebrate themselves or pat themselves on the back or really just appreciate themselves and the strength and the faith and the foresight and the insight and all that it's taken to reach a milestone. And that milestone could be like the fact that you smiled for 12 hours straight.
Right, right.
That milestone could be like, hey, I didn't cuss anybody out today.
Right.
The milestones could be that, or it can be, celebrating something, being in a business for 16 years. And so I finally gotten to the point where I understand that all of these things that are happening is a reason to celebrate. And the same advice that I'm giving to this intern about taking it all in and really appreciating everything that's happening is the same advice that I have to give to myself as well. Yeah.
Very good. Now, for women overall, as you mentioned, what do you think? Why do you think it's important for them? I mean, for the same reasons, just that you need to be acknowledge the work that you've done and.
Yeah. I mean, as women, I think that sometimes, well, not sometimes, but all the time, we're expected to be super women. We're expected to do all of these things and be the mom and the caregiver and the cook and the nurse and the career woman and all of these things. And we're supposed to do it without any acknowledgement because it's what we're supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that even if we are supposed to do those things, we also are supposed to celebrate that as well. And we also should be proud of these accomplishments as well on a daily, on the monthly, on the yearly, and should absolutely take the time out again to celebrate the fact that you made it through, you had a great day, or, the fact that you closed the deal. It's
right.
A reason to be happy and celebrate.
I agree. And I think sometimes, too, we're so hard on ourselves because we're doing all of those things, as you just mentioned, and feeling like everything's not at 100% or I'm not at or doing everything. I don't hate when people say it, but I always stop when people say, I'm doing this 120%. And it's sort of like, well, what's left for you?
Exactly. It's true.
And we don't take the time to give, or just give ourselves a break. Like you look at all the things you're doing, celebrate that. Like you said, that you made it through the day with a smile, even though you may not have felt like smiling.
Exactly.
Now, what does your support network look like for your business or your personal life?
My support network, my mom, obviously, my tall, handsome, chocolatey, ball-headed boyfriend, Rudy. He's a big support. And then, the women in my life, the women who I fraternize with on a daily basis really are all women who have created their own lives and created their own careers. And so, having them around as well, you around as well, is, of course, like the biggest support system.
Are these women who have been around I know I've been around forever, but are these other women, people who have been around before the business? And I ask that because I know with being someone who works with celebrities, and as we talked about this allure that it has and people being attracted to it, do you sort of guard your circle, so to speak?
I have to. Like my inner circle of people who I actually work with,
Mm-hmm.
today, these days, really are people who are in the 20 plus club. Like people who I've known since college
Right, right.
are really people who I work with and who I trust my business with. And then the women who I'm around, no, like I don't subscribe to the no new friends rule at
Right.
all. Um, there's a group of women who I met. I would say randomly, but obviously it's not randomly. But there's this group of my career bitches, is what I call them,
I love it.
and like we have dinners every month, and we feed off of each other's energy, and we're all like major career women, and we just met like 9 months ago.
I love that. So the dinners every month, is that something you all decided to do in order to sort of nourish each other, which I think is so
Absolutely.
important?
Absolutely. And what's crazy is we rarely actually talk about work.
Right. And
It's
sometimes that's the
very
thing.
rare that we talk about work.
It's just
Um,
being there to support each other in other
yeah.
ways. And I think it sounds like, and which is so important too, is creating a safe space to be able to do that, to not talk about work, to just be who you are and to connect with people.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they were the ones who were over here last night during my epic water balloon fight.
I love it.
Yeah,
Which was not about work.
which was not about work at all.
I love it. That's beautiful. Now, what's the greatest lesson having a business has taught you about yourself as a woman?
Ooh. Um, I would never have thought that I'm as resilient as I am.
Mm,
Because being an entrepreneur, you have to be able to adjust. There's constant adjustments that are being made. And that's everything from I bought 50 paper clips last month, and that was too many, and I really only needed 25, to adjusting your management skills for the different needs that your employees have.
mm-hmm.
And so having to adjust and having to change and having to morph all of the time can be very frustrating. And so it takes a level of resiliency to be able to change and flow as your business is changing and flowing every day.
Mm-hmm. Now, was there ever a point in the business or the journey overall where you felt like it was a sort of a low point or something that you really had to pull yourself through? Anything that you remember and how you were able to do that? Or were there many? Just share one.
I mean, you want to talk about today and just like waking up and the fact that you have on red lipstick and I don't. I mean, that's part of it right
You
there.
try to pull yourself through that moment. I can't.
Yeah, there was definitely a point where the first half of my career, I was with an agent, and the agent and her agency ran the business side of my business.
Mm-hmm.
And I chose to to leave that agency and start my own agency. That was the hardest time and the hardest transition ever. Like actually beginning a business and having to run it fully. Up until then, as a stylist, having an agent, I was able to just be creative.
Right.
And I was able to do what I do, which was show up in front of the client with a smile and a rack.
Mm-hmm.
And once I started my own business and I didn't have that support, and I had to actually create that foundation and create that support for myself, was a shock. It was a shock. And, still as a creative, having to think linearly as a business person and then as a creative in a circle, is like the greatest juggling act of all time.
And how do you do? Is that something that you just learned over time? It's not something that anyone can necessarily teach you. It's just by way of, or maybe it is something people can teach you or
It is
tell you.
something people can teach you. And, I kind of backed into my business. If I were to create another one or, decide to run in a different lane, I now have the skills to set things up in a completely different way. Because of everything that I learned and because I kind of blindly walked into my business,
Yeah. Do you feel like you know it in a deeper way, though, just because you did experience it and know, sort of
For
what
sure.
happens if you don't do? That's what I tell people
Absolutely.
sometimes. Of course, you can learn things, people telling you and that kind of thing. But when you experience those times, you really never forget it.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah. No. People can teach you, but obviously experience is the greatest teacher, for sure.
So what's next for you? What are you most excited about now, today, other than my red lipstick?
That's really what I'm excited about. I mean, I have lunch, I have meetings today. I'm really at a point where my greatest goal is to be in the flow on a moment by moment basis. And so at this juncture, that really means like focusing on exactly what I have to do next, like feed my dog, go through my to-do list. You spoke earlier about being present. That's really where I am now. My life has been in fast forward for so long where I'm never here. I'm always wherever I'm supposed to be next. And so right now I'm literally focusing on every moment and actually enjoying those things. Not necessarily like 5 years from now, I'm going to be doing this and this and that. I really just want to enjoy myself and laugh.
That makes me happy. Now, it sounds like that was a very conscious choice. What brought that on? Or do you feel like, was it just this realization, as you said, that you've been going and haven't had that moment? So, or is it just your stage of life?
I think it's a combination of both. I mean, when you grow up and I've grown up, I've had a lot of experiences. And so now that I've had those experiences, I want to, I realize there's a lot of things that I feel like I missed in my own life just because it was moving so fast.
Like what?
Like, just like the amount of fun that I was having eluded me because everything was really about work. And so, for so long, I've been like living to work. And so now I'm living to live.
Nice.
It's just like a transition. The time has been coming and I've been fighting it. And I finally decided to stop fighting.
You made the decision. As I said, it sounded like a conscious decision. Like, no,
I made
this
a conscious decision because I knew that this was my trajectory to really just bask for a moment. And I've been fighting it for years, and it's shown up. That fight has shown up in different areas of my life. And so I understand that it's time for me to just pull back and relax and enjoy for a minute.
I love it. You deserve it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So one of the final questions for you. Thank you so much for your time this morning. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
So if you think over your life and career and you had the chance to thank only one person whose support was critical to you personally or professionally, who would that be and what would you say?
Oh, gosh. All right. So that's an impossible question, first of all. But I'm going to go with the first thing that came to mind. Damian Gordon, who you know, is the one who I had an epic phone call with. And that phone call is the reason that I followed my path. that I'm on right now. I was working a full-time job. I had been out of school for about 2 years. I knew that I wanted to make the leap to go into styling. And I got on the phone with him. And he said to me, I think that you're afraid to succeed. What are you scared of? Like, you're afraid to be big. You're afraid to succeed. And that was like the most epic moment in my life, because when I thought about it, he was exactly right. He was exactly right. That leap that I needed to take, that leap of faith, was really about me being afraid to really capture what it is that I wanted. And once I was able to look at it, and once I was able to step back and look at it that way, then I was ready to fly.
I love it. That's beautiful. And the fact that I think sometimes hearing it from somebody else, something that you already somewhere in yourself know that that's what the thing is.
Yeah.
It sort of brings it to like, I didn't expect that. That was a good one.
Yeah, it was epic.
I love it. Now, how can we support you? Tell me what to do. I know I'll have your website there. Is there anything else? And of course, all social media, because that's the ways of the world. What can we do to support you other than sending you positive energy?
Girl, as soon as I think of something, I'm going to call you.
I love it. So thank you so much again. And before you go, what's a parting piece of advice that you have for us?
Let's see. Parting piece of advice. Really enjoy every minute. That's my parting piece of advice. Yeah, have fun with it.
Have fun with it. Yeah, I love it. Thank you, Rachel.
Okay, thank you.
Hold on one second.
Okay.
All right. Thank you so much for listening to that episode of the Support is Sexy podcast. And I do hope that you got some inspiration from it. And the challenge is for you to do at least one thing. Take one thing from the episode, at least one thing. You can always do more, but at least one thing that will help you move one step closer to your dream. Whether that's launching a business, writing a book, whatever that thing is that you want to do, take something from this episode and move one step closer. And what I'll also ask of you, if you can tell me what you think about the episodes, what we've been doing, what you want to hear, what you like, what you experience while you're listening, go over to iTunes, leave us a review, and let me know what's going on. What are you thinking? What are you feeling about the show? What else can I do to be of service to you, which is what this is all about, to be of support to you. That's our buzzword, right? You can also go to my website, ElayneFluker.com/podcast. So that's ELAYNEFLUKER.com/podcast. Hear more episodes there. Also have a bunch of great videos, tons of information. It's where I'm going to be spending a lot of time, and it's where I love to connect with you. So again, thank you so much for listening. I truly appreciate you and your support. And the most important thing I want you to remember is having it all does not mean doing it all alone. So now, go out there and create something sexy, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care.